Hello and welcome back to Mama Yaya Soy. I'm Yael and I'm so excited to have you here. Today we're going to be talking all about curriculum. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what curriculum is and take you through some of the things you want to think about in order to make the best choice for you and your family. Let's get into it. So what is curriculum exactly? It's essentially a set of lessons presented in units that introduces different concepts like addition in a sequential and paced manner. Each lesson is going to have its own learning goals that are developmentally and age appropriate. And in terms of public education, they're going to be connecting back to specific state and national standards, which are essentially the predetermined things that your child should be able to do at their given age and level. So a curriculum will address these goals, standards, and they will use different approaches to introduce these concepts. That being said, here are the things you need to consider in order to make the best choice for you and your family. I would invite you to just close your eyes and think in your mind a picture of a wheel. The curriculum is the center of that wheel, and the spokes of the wheel are the different parameters that are going to contribute to whether or not a curriculum is going to gel well with you and your family. Spoke number one, who? Who is this curriculum being chosen for, and who is going to teach it? Obviously, that means you have to think about your children and yourself. The first thing I would encourage you to do is observe your children and what are some of the ways they learn the best. Are they hands-on? Do they like to move? Are they writers? Are they bookworms? What ways do your children learn the best? The second thing you want to think about is yourself. So do you want to be more intense in terms of teaching and being with your kids, or do you want your children to work more independently? Also, what is your bandwidth like? What's your capacity like? How much time do you think you're going to be able to put into the actual teaching of the curriculum? Don't forget to be realistic here. Just because the curriculum is intense doesn't mean it's going to be the best. And don't feel like you have to fit yourself into a certain mold. That is not what curriculum is for. Remember, the curriculum should work for you, not the other way around. This is a piece of wisdom that I have heard here from other moms on the platform, and I completely agree. So now let's think about the what. The first thing is, what does your state require? Because in certain states, they do have a set curriculum that is prescribed for homeschooling. So that's something you want to think about and make sure that you're adhering to. Now, if your state does require a specific curriculum, it's okay. You can always adapt that curriculum to meet your family's needs. In terms of your family's needs, you might want to think about what approach is going to work the best. Are you going to be more traditional? Are you going to take a Charlotte Mason approach? How about classical or Montessori? Unschooling, eclectic. I have included a link below that describes each approach in a little bit more detail. Now, there are a lot of different approaches, and you might ask me, well, Yael, how on earth do I figure this out? The best way to figure out the approach that you want to use for homeschooling is to know what your priorities for homeschooling are. Priorities really connect back to the who, you and your children. Let me give you an example of some of the priorities that I have set for our homeschool. So I have observed that my children really love to ask questions and to discover things for themselves. So one of the things I want to make sure that we do in our homeschool every day is that we are cultivating their critical thinking and reading skills. We want to also make sure that we're providing opportunities for our children to create and innovate on a daily basis. And lastly, our desire is to help our children develop healthy work habits that balance independent study with discovery and play. Just taking into consideration what our priorities are, you can already start to see that we are going to be somewhat eclectic in our learning. There will be elements of free discovery and learning, so a little bit of unschooling there, with a mixture of sitting down and doing some focused work and maybe doing some worksheets. It is so important to know what your priorities are in order to choose a curriculum that is going to propel your family forward and help them thrive in terms of maintaining and meeting those priorities. Something else to consider is, do you want a curriculum that you're going to be able to do with the entire family, or do you want to choose things that are going to really hone in on each individual kid. For me, my eldest is more hands-on and kinesthetic, and my middle child is more oriented to books and worksheets. And so I have chosen for us to use different types of curriculum so that they get the best experience they can out of learning. This is why it's so important to take the time to really observe your children and also asking them questions about their previous experiences if they were in school before. Another thing to consider is, when are you going to do the thing? When are you going to homeschool? What does your time actually allow for? This is so important because certain curriculum can be very time intensive. And if that is not for you, you need to know that now before you go and buy one. Think about what your natural family daily rhythm is and figure out what curriculum is going to work for that daily rhythm. Next, consider where you want to do homeschool. Maybe you want to be more outdoors. Perhaps you envision your children sitting at a desk and doing work. Where do you envision the learning happening? Last thing is the how. How much are you able to spend on a curriculum? Now, I will say, the cost of a curriculum does not measure how well it's going to work for you and your family. More expensive does not necessarily mean better. It just means more expensive. Perhaps you have a small or very limited budget. That is okay. Consider these factors: who, what, where, and when, and try to choose a curriculum that will fit not only with your family, but also with your budget. And then after that point, adapt as necessary. Take what you need and leave the rest. The last how is, how do your religious beliefs impact the curriculum that you're gonna choose? For me, although I am a Christian woman and I am raising my children to believe in God and to believe in Christ, I really wanted to get curriculum that was a little bit more secular and not weaving too many biblical principles in, simply because I wanted the flexibility to be able to teach those things to my children the ways that I felt were best. And sometimes when you get a curriculum that is a little too prescribed in that way, it feels a little too constrained. And so that's my perspective on things. Your perspective might be completely different. Once you've considered the who, what, where, when, and how, it is time to choose a curriculum that's gonna work best for your family. One resource that I wanted to share with you today is Kathy Duffy Reviews, and her website is linked below. She has contributed so many different reviews of all kinds of different curricula, and I highly recommend you check out that website in order to help you get started. Another resource that is so helpful that I purchased recently was 102 top picks for homeschool curriculum. Kathy Duffy definitely has a Christian leaning. However, her top picks cut across both secular and Christian curricula. What I love about this resource is that she takes you through some of the things we discussed today and provides some worksheets for you to go through and decide and write out what your priorities for your family are. How do you want the learning to look, and all of these different details. So she helps you to determine what kind of approach is going to work best for your family, and then the curriculum that then matches up to each of those different approaches. Whew. I know this was a lot of information today, but I hope that it was helpful. Thank you so much again for joining me, and please remember to subscribe. I wish you so many blessings on your homeschooling journey. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.